Thank you, Kevin. I'm sure you missed us. Hey, short of giving us a complete dissection of what you guys did last week, can you give us a little insight as to where the focus was and what you learned?
Yeah, I think it's always a good process, Tom. I think you do that self-scout. Really, you do it weekly in some ways, but when you get an opportunity, whether it's after the Thursday night game or on your bye week, that's when you really dive into it. And I think offense, defense, special teams, you dissect it every which way, and you look at it from schematic angles, you look at it from personnel angles, play calling, how, certain decisions we make. You just look at all of it and say, what are we doing and what's working? And we really pull all of our resources and pull all that information together. And then you got to sift through it and find out where you can find some action items in terms of where you move going forward.
And Kevin, how much of this week helped just in terms, obviously physically you guys needed a little bit of a break to get guys, but just from a mental standpoint, just to kind of assess where things are at and so you can make a real strong run here down the stretch?
Yeah, I think it's probably most indicative, Tom, based on how the guys were today. I think they were really engaged. I think they were moving around, flying around the practice field today. So I feel like they recharged with their time away from here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Fred Greetham is next.
Hey, Coach. No question you have one of the best running games and what you're doing's worked. But the passing game needs jump started without giving any secrets away. Is there any downside to playing Nick and Kareem together, not only in the running game, but in the passing game, get two of your best players on the field together?
Yeah, Fred, those are all things we talk about. We want to make sure whatever we do is sound in thinking and sound in schematically, those type of things. You're right. Those are two great players. So we got to make sure that they're involved so that we can be productive, like you mentioned, in the run game and in the pass game.
Thank you, Fred. Nate Ulrich, go ahead.
Hey, Kevin. Obviously, the bye week was so crucial for you and Alex Van Pelt and other members of your staff and Baker Mayfield last season. And I remember you guys all talking about how you got together and were able to kind of get the offense on track the way you wanted. So was there any kind of meeting that you had with Baker this bye week? Anything behind the scenes that you specifically did with Baker or Alex Van Pelt to try to get that passing game on track?
Yeah, nothing specific, Nate. Just normal meetings that we have each week and making sure that we're all on the same page. But, if you go back to last year, it was really streamlining concepts, and we didn't have that off season. This year with this later bye, it's really about what do we do well and how can we do it better? And then what are we not doing so well? And let's pivot in a different direction. So I think that's been the really good conversations in the offensive meeting room, defensive meeting room, special teams, really taking stock of what we're good at and then trying to get better at it. And I think it was a productive week.
And one more thing on Baker, we had a chance to talk to Andrew Berry on Wednesday. His message was clear. He said it repeatedly that he expects Baker to play his best ball this season down the stretch here in the final 5 games for you. I'm just wondering, do you think that's realistic? And if so, why?
I think that's the expectation for all of us, Nate, coaches, players, where we are in our season and we all understand what's at stake and those type of things. But we're all looking forward to the challenge that we have in each one of these weeks and starting this week versus Baltimore.
Nate. Matt Fontana, go ahead.
Yeah, Kevin, actually perfectly off that. Another thing Andrew said was that Baker is healthy enough to win games. So a lot of people say, okay, well, then it's obviously a performance thing of just why, it's kind of gone slow. Do you agree with that? And just, we know he's battling stuff, but, Andrew made it sound like the injuries are a bit of a non-factor.
Yeah, I think you guys have talked to Baker. We've talked about it. He does have things that he's working through, but he's confident when he's out there that he's playing and giving us a really good chance to win these games. And we've fallen short, and we've fallen short as a team, and that's kind of how it works. We win as a team, we lose as a team, but moving forward, we're really focusing on what we can do to get better.
And this is kind of a silly question, I apologize, but like watching the Ravens and Steelers yesterday, like the rest of us, can you actually game plan just watching it on TV, or do you need to be like in a film room with a clicker and people, or can you actually game plan just watching a game on TV?
Yeah, you can do some TV scouting. You can see things and make a mental note or send yourself a text message. But I was not watching. I was following it on my phone though. But I got caught up this morning on it.
Thanks.
Thank you, Matt. Dale Ryder has our next question.
Yeah, Kevin, everyone talked about how last year at the bye week was a turning point for you guys. And you just mentioned how you streamlined some stuff last year. Everyone's kind of expecting now that you got the bye week that maybe you'll have some similar results. Do you plan on, or did you, in your process, discover that maybe you need to streamline some stuff again this year here?
Yeah, I think that's fair to say, Daryl. It's a little bit different just based on where this bye week is in our season. But certainly, yes, in terms of concepts, in terms of scheme, in terms of how we call things, absolutely want to streamline what we're doing, really run game and pass game.
And then today you guys designated Jacob to come back from IR. I know at the time you guys were optimistic that there was a chance he could come back late in the season. Just what does that timetable look like, and what could Jacob add to your defense if he is able to get himself healthy to get back on the field?
Yeah, really excited for Jacob to be back out there and in uniform and practicing. I think those are long ways away when you first get injured and you're spending time in that training room. And but just to see him out there, I know that's just a great reflection of how hard he's worked. Now, in terms of when he's back and when he's ready, we'll work through that. Just wanted to put my eyes on him at his first practice, watch the tape, see how he's doing. But we'll make those determinations over the next few days.
Thank you, Daryl. Jeff Shadell, you have our next one.
Hey, Kevin, we don't ask you Charlie Hewlett questions very often. How's he coming along, and would J.C. Treader be your long snapper if he's not ready for Baltimore?
So Charlie's he's progressing through the protocol, and we'll see how he does over the next couple of days. And then Mac Wilson is our backup long snapper.
Thanks,
Can you
Jeff.
just talk about Hewlett? It seems like he's automatic for you.
Yeah, Charlie does a nice job. In that position, oftentimes you're not even sure who the long snapper is. It's an anonymous position, but he does a really nice job for us, has done it at a high level. He's a leader for this special teams group. So we're excited for when he can get back in here.
Thank you, Jeff. Mary Kay Cabot, go ahead.
Yeah, Kevin, just wondering, in catching up on that Ravens game this morning and seeing what Lamar was able to do once again in taking his team down the field for that last drive, just address Lamar a little bit and how you know that, especially this season, they're never out of it, even when it seems like they might be. So how's he doing, and what were your thoughts watching all of that?
Yeah, he's a great player, Mary Kay. You're never going to shut him out. I mean, he makes plays. That last drive, they did a nice job of getting in position to scored, and obviously it was a great play with that 2-point conversion on both sides. So, but with Lamar Jackson, as you know, he's going to make plays, and it's our job to limit them. And I think there's some really good things that we can work off of from our last ball game.
And did you also see opportunities there again? He was sacked 7 times. So did you see some things on film where you can get to him?
Yeah, I thought Pittsburgh did a nice job. They varied their package up in terms of pressure and coverage, and ultimately they got him on the ground. Now he's hard to get on the ground. The first guy oftentimes does not succeed, so you really have to be relentless to the football when you're playing Lamar.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mary Kay. Scott Petrick, you're up.
Hey, Kevin, first I got a couple of quick injury things. Is Anthony Schwartz out of the concussion protocol? Did he practice today?
He did not practice today.
So still in it?
Still working through that, yes.
Okay. And Harrison Bryant, is a high ankle an IR thing for him?
I think we'll see, Scott. I think that's to be determined through this week.
Okay. And then when Freddie asked you about Kareem and Nick playing together, I know we've asked you about that before, but we haven't seen it really. Is that something realistically you could do in your system and change over the course of the bye week?
Yeah, I do think it's something you can do in this system, really any system, in terms of plugging those guys. I think we just want to be mindful and intentional about why we're doing what we're doing. If you do something like that, you want to have a good reason to do it and put those guys in position to succeed.
Thanks.
Thank you, Scott. Tony Grossi has our next question.
All right, some of my questions have been taken, so I'll go to Plan C. This ought to be fun. Watching that Baltimore-Pittsburgh game, Kevin, the physical nature of that game just jumps out at you. Physical on offense, in particular. Looking back at your game in Baltimore, do you think you were physical enough on offense? Physical usually relates to running the ball, is what I'm
Right.
thinking.
Yeah, I think that's a fair question, Tony. Obviously, with the amount of plays that we had in that game and the flow of the game, we always want to make sure we're giving our runners opportunities. So I think we were comfortable with how the game unfolded in that regard. We just we weren't efficient enough in that run game with our limited amount of carries.
Okay, and wondering, you talked about the team being energized or recharged. Everything went your way yesterday as far as results, and I'm wondering if that was discussed in your team meeting as you try to charge up the guys for these last 5 games.
No, Tony, I think those guys obviously follow what's going on in our game, but most importantly, it is about us and what we control.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Tony. Dan Lobby, go ahead.
Hey, Kevin. It's pretty rare in this league that you play a team twice in a row and get 2 weeks to basically prepare for that team after you've sort of felt what they want to do to you. Does it change your process at all, or is anything different in kind of how you can prepare for them, kind of given the nature of this setup?
So we really have our game and the Pittsburgh game is new tape, if you will, that we didn't have available to us when we were game planning previously. So we'll certainly stay into our normal rhythm of how we game plan with that tape at our disposal. And we line up in this formation, they did this, that may lead us to this play or this type. So those are the type of things that we work through. For them on the other side, really they just have our game versus them, so there's not that extra tape. So I'd say it's probably a little bit more unique on their side.
Is there a little bit of a feel of obviously with your dad's basketball background, almost like a basketball playoff series where they beat you and now it's kind of your turn to adjust?
Yeah, it's a home and home. Yeah, it's different, but I think the guys are excited about the challenge. It's a team. You know your division opponents so well, and we have a great amount of respect for them, and we're looking forward to this challenge.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. Ashley Bastock, you're up.
Hey, Kevin, obviously losing Jack in game was a huge loss given everything he brings to you and being an all-pro and stuff. But I guess now that you've had some time to think about how to maybe make up for that, I guess how confident are you guys that you've effectively kind of figured out a way to help, mitigate some of that stuff you lose with him out now?
Yeah, you're right, Ashley. I mean, Jack's a great player. He's an all-pro, great person. We're looking forward to getting our eyes on him when he gets back. He had his surgery, but that's our job as coaches and players. It's the next man up mentality, and then we have to make sure that we design a game plan with all of our players in mind, and that's what we're working hard on right now.
And how has he been since having surgery then?
Jack he's in good spirits. I think he'll be out here in another week or so.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ashley. Doug Maurice has our next question.
Hey, Kevin, specifically around your use of 13 personnel, and you guys do it almost twice as much as anybody else in the league, but sort of generally with your personnel groupings in your self-scout, what did you sort of think of how often we put guys on the field? Are there adjustments we could make? Do we feel pretty good about the groupings? What was the view on that?
Yeah, it's exactly how it goes, Doug. You look at what you're in, and then you look at the efficiency in those personnels, the explosive rate in those personnels. And then for us with 13, we just feel like we have 3 good tight ends. We like those guys. Now with Harrison out, we'll have to adjust, and that's the conversations we're having. Where do you want to go with that? Who do you want to put on the field, and how do you want to evolve your game plan based on who's available to you?
And Kevin, in a world where you're looking at all that and you're looking at all the data, when the offense hasn't put a lot of points on the board lately, I know you said you have to have a reason for doing things. How much is change for change's sake, or just something a little different enter the mindset? Is that totally crazy to think that way? Is there something to it?
No, that's a good question. I think for us, we need to produce on offense, and very simply, we need to score points. So we really do try to look at every avenue, Doug, and things that we have done, maybe things that we really haven't done. You do need to look at all of them, push it in the middle of the table, and then have that conversation and see what sticks.
Thanks, Doug. Let's try to take 3 more quick ones. Nate Ulrich, Scott Petrick, Mary Kay Cabot. Nate.
Hey, Kevin, Blake Hance would seem to be the next man up at right tackle. Is that true?
I think we'll work through all those type of things this week, Nate.
So you're in a decision between him and Hudson?
I think with all of our guys, we're looking at what gives us the best chance, and certainly at the offensive line, you got to replace a guy like Jack. That's not easy, but we're working through all of that.
Okay, and last we spoke, we talked about Kareem Hunt and coming back and the calf injury and the tightening late in the game, but you said you didn't re-injure it. Was he out there practicing for you today? And if so, what did he look like? Is there any progress from resting during the bye?
Yeah, he was out there, and he looks good. He's ready to go.
Thank you, Nate. Scott's next.
And Kevin, I got a right tackle related question. Without Jack, does more responsibility fall on Jed to hold down that left tackle spot with maybe not getting the help that maybe he would in other circumstances? And does he need to kind of play better than he has so far this year?
Yeah, I think Jed has very high expectations of himself, as do I. And he's working very hard. I think he's had some really good moments, but he's working on his craft. And then with to the first part of the question, I just think with your 5 guys, they got to work together. And I think there are certain things you can do to help a tackle or to slide to a guard and those type of things. But ultimately, it's a difficult job that those guys have. We're counting on them, and they know that.
Thanks.
Thank you, Scott. Final question for Coach Mary Kay Cabot.
Yeah, Kevin, I'm following up on Nate's question from earlier, but Andrew sounded really confident that he believes that Baker will play his best ball down the stretch, and you seem to agree with that. So my question is, what makes you guys feel that way? Why are you so confident this is going to happen?
Yeah, Mary Kay, I just would go back to the team. I mean, we have to play better. We have to coach better. We have an opportunity here, and we got a big challenge right in front of us in Baltimore. So the expectations for all of us are high, and that's really where they should be. So I know it's always want to make it specific to one player, but I just feel like it's for all of us. This is a big opportunity.